What's going on, everyone? So one of the players I am actually very for the Lakers going and trading for is Zach Lavine. I think Zach Lavine can not only raise the ceiling for the Lakers enough to potentially put them in contention if everyone's healthy and all things work. I also think with the new TV deal coming in, Zach Lavine's contract will only get better over time. I mean, it's not a great contract, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be as impactful, as you move towards the end. His contract also lines up perfectly with LeBron and AD in that timeline. So basically everyone's money kind of falls off at once, or like a year, separated. So from LeBron to AD and Lavine. So I think like you basically could hit the reset button after that. Not only that, but you bring in assets that now you can use to then pivot and go get another piece potentially, right? Here's the thing. Two biggest concerns that people have about Zach Lavine is his health, which I do think is a bit overblown, right? Several reasons. You look at not this last year, but two previous years, 67 games, 77 games, right? That's good. 65 games is the kind of cutoff for a reason, because that's kind of the average that everyone's playing. So you give me 65 games, we're good. I know people look at this last year, man, he only played like 23, 25 games. I get that, but he also was expected to play out the rest of the season until the Detroit rumors happened. And then when the Detroit rumors happened, everyone was like, yeah, he's not going to Detroit. And he was like, I'm just going to go get surgery, right? Everyone was like, even Chicago was like, wait, what? So that, I just think he didn't want to go to Detroit. The other thing, again, is his contract. And look, again, his contract isn't great. And if it doesn't work, you're kind of stuck with him. But what are your other options that provide the ceiling raise in which he gives you, right? The Lakers aren't a real contender right now, regardless. So you can stand pat and have a puncher's chance, or you could go get a guy in Zach Lavine and give you an even greater chance and still maintain flexibility to do other things, right? So to me, it's the gamble is worth the risk. The payout is worth the gamble, right? I've seen people like, oh, what about like a Malcolm Brogdon or something like that? Or they'll mention another guy who, has injury concerns, because it's also about what's available there. But to me, somebody like that compared to Zach Lavine, yes, the contracts are very different, but the upside for the Lakers isn't as great. So it's like, yeah, Malcolm Brogdon would be nice, but he can't stay healthy either. And the ceiling for the Lakers with him is a lot shorter than with Zach Lavine. Zach Lavine is one of the best on-ball catch-and-shoot guys, right? He is one of the best just natural gifted scorers in the league, right? He didn't get $40 million just for fun, right? On top of that, he's a guy that wouldn't have as much of a workload on the Lakers as he would with the team like the Chicago Bulls. And to me, again, it's about being able to do other things. The last kind of issue is the depth. People have concerns about the depth. But you can go get Zach Lavine, use that trade to then pivot into another trade. And that's where I want to kind of focus on. To me, you could use the Zach Lavine trade to then pivot to a Walker Kessler trade. From day one, DeMar DeRozan, Klay Thompson, Jeremy Grant, all of them. It was always that guy and... right? Like Jeremy Grant, yes, raises the ceiling, but we're not a contender, right? You need 2, maybe 3 pieces to really put you into contention status with these other teams. I don't think the Lakers need like a full roster rehaul, but I do think a quality upgrade or 2 can really do a lot. You add in new coaching, you add in, health, hopefully. Let's go try to win an NBA championship. To me, right now, the Chicago Bulls are willing to attach assets in order to pull off a trade for Zach Lavine. That's how bad they want to get rid of him. Ideally, they want to unload the 2 seconds that they got in the DeMar DeRozan trade, but original reports were that they were willing to give up a first, and they have 3 tradable firsts that they could give up. Now, I would imagine it's not going to be unprotected or anything like that. It's probably going to have some protections. If the Lakers are the only game in town, you have some leverage in that regard, but you're gaining more assets that now you can use to better your chances for a Walker Kessler trade. So say Zach Lavine, right? You can either work this as a 3-team deal or you can work this as individual trades. However, it might be best to kind of do it in a 3-team deal just to kind of make sure all the little ducks in a row, as well as like Utah can take on a little salary if like you need to kind of like get another piece in there or whatever. So it probably is best in a 3-team deal. Essentially what you're doing is you're taking something along the lines of D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, and Gabe Vincent. Those 3 guys you're bringing in, that clears the salary that you need for Zach Lavine, right? D'Angelo Russell, 18.7, Rui is 17 million. That right there is 35, almost 36 million. You add in Gabe Vincent, that's basically 46 million, almost 47 million in salary. So you're clearing a little off of what Zach Lavine's making, almost 4 million. If you can, you're trying to throw in like a Cam Reddish or something too into that deal, right? Because then that could clear an extra, 2-3 million, which could free up your mid-level or taxpayer mid-level exception. So now you can bring in, say, a Gary Trent, right? But you also got to keep in mind, Lakers are only 45,000 from the second apron. So not only do you have to clear 5.2 million for that taxpayer mid-level, you also need to save enough room in order to make a deal that can get you, these signings to round out the roster, right? So to me, that's where I would try to use Utah or Chicago as a salary dump. And that's why I think as a 3-team deal, that would make it much easier. Because you could work something out to where, again, D'Lo, Rui, Gabe Vincent are shipped to a team like Chicago. Or, if maybe Utah's like, hey, you know what? We actually like Rui, right? We'll take Rui Hachimura, right? Or, maybe they're like, hey, you know what? Like Gabe Vincent, I think he'd be good with this roster. Or D'Lo, you know what? We would prefer to have D'Lo because he's an expiring contract, right? Maybe you do something like that. So maybe D'Lo's going for Walker Kessler, right? And then you're bringing in a Kessler, and then you're basically piecing together, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Christian Wood, and Cam Reddish, right? And you're kind of packaging them to get, because you got to remember, Utah would be taking on salary too. So to kind of make the deal work to where, okay, now you can land Zach Lavine, now you can land Walker Kessler. You're giving up probably a first for Walker Kessler, but if you can get a first from Chicago, right, maybe you can now do that. Or maybe they'll say most they'll give you is the 2 seconds. Or maybe they'll give you a young guy, right? Can you get an IO, right? Maybe a team like the Utah Jazz, maybe they'd be like, hey, we'd love to have a guy like that. So maybe you're shipping him out too, right? Maybe instead of a pick, it's like, hey, here's a young guy, here's 2 young guys. Maybe you're throwing in like a Maxwell Lewis or something to where you're giving some young talent along with a first, right? And now you can satisfy Utah. Chicago is not the team you really would have to satisfy in this potential scenario. It's the Chicago Bull or the Utah Jazz, right? Chicago, they just want and are willing to give up assets to get off of Lavine. So they just want to rid themselves of Lavine and his long-term contract. So they are looking for a scenario where they can do that. They know they're going to have to take on probably 3, 4, 5 players in order to do that, right? So they're going, like, there's nobody outside of like maybe the Nets, because they have like Ben Simmons expiring contract, but that doesn't make really sense for the Nets given the direction they're going. So Chicago is fully aware, and if they're not, then something's wrong, that they're going to have to take on several players in order to rid themselves of Zach Lavine. And they've accepted that fact because they're shopping and trying to get off of Zach Lavine and willing to give up assets. It's the Utah Jazz that you have to satisfy in order to get Walker Kessler, right? So now I know Knicks offered 2 firsts for Kessler and they rejected. Big difference between the New York Knicks picks, who They are young, they're talented. Jalen Brunson just took a discount to help them even further, and they're going to be very good for a long time. Their picks aren't as valuable as a team like the Lakers, who, when LeBron James and Anthony Davis depart, the Lakers could be a lottery team. Right? We don't know what they look like post then. The hope is that that's not the case, but you never know. And Danny Ainge has said publicly that he believes that the Lakers picks are the best on the market. So you have, hey, Danny Ainge loves and values the Lakers picks, so much so that he took a protected first from the Lakers in order to help them move off of Russell Westbrook, gave up Jared Vanderbilt, gave up Malik Beasley, which that isn't that much, but also helped them facilitate to get D'Angelo Russell. Right? So, again, Danny Ainge has shown he does really value those picks. So can you give up an unprotected first for Walker Kessler, get some assets from Chicago, add that. Maybe you're throwing in, like I said, a young player or two, or maybe it's a pick swap or something. Can you clear enough salary? Because you got to keep in mind, Walker Kessler and Zach Lavine combined is only like $46 million, which essentially is just D'Lo, Rui, and Gabe Vincent. Like those three alone basically get you cleared of Zach Lavine and Walker Kessler, because Walker Kessler's contract is so small. It's, can you unload other guys to clear off enough salary cap in order to use your taxpayer mid-level to bring in a Gary Trent Jr.? So you need to clear $5.2 million, and then you need to clear off enough money to bring in, basically probably two other signings. Here's the thing, though, too, right? You don't have to clear that much off. So you have to clear the $5.2 million to be able to get Gary Trent Jr. After that, you only need to clear about $8 to $10 million in that range, right? Because even vet minimums are based on years played, right? So you could bring in, like, let's say it's like, we only have 12 guys on our roster, but we only have like $2.5 million to spend. That's we can't bring in Lonnie Walker, right? We can't bring in a Lonnie Walker. What do? Oh no. Well, the simple answer is you just bring in two of your two-way guys. Blake Hinson, come on down, because his vet minimum contract is only like $900,000. Say you just convert him to an actual roster spot. Now he's $900,000. You do the same thing with like a Colin Castleton or like a Traore or whatever if you needed to, and you basically guarantee them a contract for $900,000. And there you go. You're $1 million under the cap. You got Zach Lavine, you got Walker Kessler, you got Gary Trent Jr., you got Spencer Dinwiddie. To me, I believe you're a contender at that point, because look, you solved your center position, right? You still maintain Jared Vanderbilt. You still keep Austin Reeves. You got Dalton Connect. You got a better coach. You get Gary Trent Jr. You get Spencer Dinwiddie. I mean, you're basically 10 or whatever would be LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Zach Lavine, Austin Reeves, Jared Vanderbilt, right? Then you have Spencer Dinwiddie, Dalton Connect. You'd still have Walker Kessler, Max Christie, right? And I feel like I'm missing somebody. Correct me down in the comments. But you get my point, right? You got your 9 to 10 guys. You fill out the rest of your roster spot with like I said, Blake Hinson and Colin Castleton. Let's go try to win a championship. So I think that might even be the best option, because you get a real ceiling raiser in Zach Lavine. You get a legit center for now and the future. You're getting assets that now help facilitate that Walker Kessler trade. You can clear off some salary to bring in other guys, and you're good, right? Like, you got your 9 to 10 guys, all high caliber guys. Let's go win a championship. Obviously, health is a big factor, but if you can stay healthy, I think you win. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you like the idea of Zach Lavine? Do you think, Zach Lavine, bring him in? Do you like the idea of Walker Kessler? Yes, bring in Walker Kessler. If you can bring in Zach Lavine and Walker Kessler, let's go. to me, again, it's about using Utah or using Chicago to help facilitate to pull off the Walker Kessler trade by giving you more assets in order to incentivize them, while also using either team, potentially both, to clear a little extra salary in order to actually be able to contend, right? Like, that's the idea. And bring in a Gary Trent, bring in a Spencer Dinwiddie, bring in whatever you need, right? You got to clear about, like I said, $10 million in salary. Utah could take that all on by themselves, right? Like I said, they just take on D'Lo, right? Like, and then Chicago, they're a team that could take on a little bit of salary, so you can finagle it however you need to in order to pull that off. But again, how you feel, whatever your thoughts are, let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.